How are we doing, Misfits family, here on another Friday? And we took a little bit of a break. USC was on a bye, so we took ourselves a bye. Join alongside no other than Eric Lambkins. I'm Jude O'Conius. And, before we actually get into this game, Eric, you were at one of the more unprecedented upsets we have seen in college football in recent history. Where were you at?
Last week, I was at the Rose Bowl watching the Pooh Cheese UCLA Bruins.
Little bro.
The vaunted number 7, then number 7, Penn State Nittany Lions now. Quiet as kept. I got my undergraduate degree from the school across the way. Came to USC, got my master's degree. I absolutely did not think that UCLA would even contend, let alone score 10 points in that contest. They ended up walking out with a victory.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably one of the more shocking games I'd seen in recent memory. I remember checking the score and saying, "What? UCLA is up 24-7? What is happening?" It's just bad back-to-back weeks for Penn State as they dropped the game the week before to Oregon and then dropped this one to UCLA. So I guess USC and Penn State are in the same boat. They're both unranked, but USC going to look to get back ranked as they take on number 15 Michigan this week. It's the first ranked opponent that USC is hosting at the Coliseum this year. USC, they're 4-1. They're 1-1 in conference. We were both wrong. We both took our first L of the season, thinking that USC was going to beat Illinois. Michigan comes into this game. They're 4-1. They're ranked 15th in the country, and they're 2-0. They're coming off a big win against, or not a big one, but they, did what they needed to do against Wisconsin last week, and had a good road win against Nebraska a couple weeks ago. But when you look at this matchup all time, this is the 12th matchup on Saturday of all time. USC is 6-5 in those all-time meetings. But I think, Eric, we got to talk about it for a second. What happened last year? That was a shot to the chest, right? That was the game. USC they traveled to the Big House, kind of to open up Big Ten play. A lot of expectation with USC, and they crumbled. And, the one thing before I let you get into it is, I remember I was at practice all week, and they said, we got to stop the run. We got to stop the run. We got to stop the run. And USC allowed 290 passing yards in only 290 rushing yards and 332 total passing yards. We'll get a little bit later and say, is that the same result we could potentially see? But this got to be a revenge game for USC, is it not?
Yeah, I think this is, hey, first and foremost, this is the 4th meeting in the regular season between these two schools. I have absolutely no idea what happened in USC last week. I thought they had enough and would be able to do enough to emerge victorious, but when it mattered most, they could not stop the run. I don't think Lincoln Riley did them any favors by scoring so quickly. I want to say there was 1 minute and 45 seconds left with 2 timeouts. Yeah. Lincoln didn't do them any favors, but the D tackles and the linebackers, Eric Gentry played okay, but they were nowhere to be found.
Yeah. No, I mean, certainly. And you look at that last drive, we could debate back and forth. Was Lincoln Riley right to score early or not? I think we both agree he should have helped onto the ball. But you watch that last drive, Illinois, they didn't throw the ball a single time. They just ran it down USC to set up a field goal. And that can't be the result against the Michigan team. So talking about this number 15 Michigan team, look, like I said, they're 4-1. Their one ranked loss was to start the season versus Oklahoma. They were on the road. Bryce Underwood, their freshman quarterback, obviously some early struggles, but they've been able to bounce back. They're on a 4-game winning streak. And I think the big thing to take away that we saw last year and we just talked about, this is one of the best rushing attacks in the country. They ranked 13th in yards per game with 237. And I'm going to tell you, they got this running back, Justice Haynes, who is a beast. He is a beast. He's had 100 yards in all 5 games this season. He averages 7.7 yards a carry with 8 total touchdowns on the season. And I could be corrected, but I'm pretty sure he has 3+ 50-yard touchdowns this year. So he has been an absolute beast. He is obviously the guy that has been in the scouting report all week long for the Trojans, and hopefully they're going to have to stop him. But talking about freshman quarterback Bryce Underwood, I think what you're going to want to see and what you're going to probably see is a lot of play action, bootleg. Michigan's going to try to get him out on the run, make throws on the run. He's not your typical pocket passer. Now, that doesn't mean he can't beat you with his legs. He certainly showed. He had a couple runs against Nebraska. But what have you kind of made of this Michigan team so far, Eric?
You literally just said it all. See, the thing with Bryce Underwood is he has yet to be in a position to where he's had to play from the pocket and His first, second read isn't there. He's looking to scramble to try to extend plays. And if that doesn't work, he's going to take off. USC definitely has to rally to the ball and corral Bryce Underwood because he is going to run the ball. Even more than that, as you aforementioned, excuse me, about the Alabama junior transfer Justice Haynes. Justice is a man. He is him. And what I saw from Illinois before the bye week, we're going to see more of that going into tomorrow.
Yeah. No, I agree. We see Bryce Underwood. He's third in the rushing category for the Michigan Wolverines as at 181 yards. He's at 27 attempts. So, like we said, dual threat quarterback, but I think Michigan is going to prioritize making him run the ball. So now that brings us to the question, Saturday a must win. Eric, we're getting into that point of the schedule, and you could pretty much say every game is a must win in the college football landscape, but it feels a little bit like this one is one that USC has to get down, because if you lose now back-to-back ranked games, you play Notre Dame next week. So, it doesn't get any easier. Is this a must win on Saturday?
You know what? From here on out, every game is a must win. USC can only lose one more game. Realistically, if they, hope and pray to make it to the CFP, I do think that Oregon game later on in the season, that will be a loss. So if USC loses now, they can kiss their playoff hopes goodbye. So short answer, yes, this is a must win. Will they win? Got to stay tuned.
Got to stay tuned. Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is a must win. And this is also a way to kind of prove yourself from what happened against Illinois, right? I think especially we talk about being able to stop the run, showing the defensive flaws that we saw last week. Can USC bounce back from that? Because that was something that I think we went to the game saying, oh, look, this defense, they're top in the sacks category in the nation. They've shown to stop the run, but when rubber met the road, they couldn't do it. And so I think this is a chance also not only for a must win, but it's kind of a prove it to, look, we bounced back from it. It was a rough one. We were on the road. We're not, making excuses, but we also have to come out and beat a ranked opponent. We can't just, have these moral victories, which, moral victories are good at some point, but you're kind of now into week 7 of the college football season. You can't have moral victories. There needs to be W's in the win column. But continuing on that fact, and, actually me and Eric, we grabbed a little lunch earlier today. So we were talking about it, and I was noticing we're at Grand Central Market in downtown Los Angeles. A lot of Michigan fans, all right? A lot of Michigan fans. I did see the fair share of USC fans, but a lot of Michigan fans enjoying the Grand Central Market, enjoying all they has to offer. Because to be honest, I mean, where would you rather be, Los Angeles or Ann Arbor? I think, the question speaks for itself. But I think this is fun. What, Eric, we talked about, what is the ratio of fans going to be tomorrow?
You know what? I have the utmost and absolute belief in Trojan fans. They are going to show up because there is absolutely no way the Coliseum would be 50-50. But there are a lot of people who are utilizing this game in particular as a little vacation. They're going to Disneyland. They're going to Universal Studios. So if I had to surmise, I would say the ratio of USC Trojan fans in the Coliseum to Wolverines is going to be 60-40.
Yeah, I'm around that 60-40 ballpark. It reminds me very much, this is going to be a similar type of game that we saw when Penn State traveled to USC last year. And there's a lot more white than there's a lot more cardinal and gold in the stadium. I'll say that. So I do think the turnout's probably going to be more Michigan fans. I know from friends myself, being a USC senior, I already know a lot of friends that I don't know what it is, Eric, but a lot of people decide to go to Vegas this weekend. So, I just imagine that there's going to be quite a few Trojan fans more in Vegas watching the game than at the Coliseum. So I overall think probably it'll be, 60-40, maybe 65-35. But I have belief in Trojan fans. They're at least going to get 40% of fans there, and they kind of need it. They're going to need the offense, especially the defense, when the crowd noise matters, especially in that third, fourth quarter. It's going to be going into a night game. It starts at 4:30 p.m. So having that crowd noise, especially later on in the game, is extremely vital. But as we kind of wrap it up here, we do our typical segment right here. What is your player or matchup to watch, Eric, in tomorrow's game?
You know what? I'm looking at two people, man. Devin Tompkins and Jide Abasiri. They have to step up. I wanted to include, the linebackers, but really those two. Against Illinois, those two defenders were being pushed 6 yards downfield into the laps of linebackers. That absolutely cannot happen. Either Jide has to command and demand a double team, or excuse me, or Devin has to do it. One of them has to make and hold two offensive linemen so that the linebackers are able to run free. So those are my two.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm going the same way. I got the freshman Jakeem Stewart, the defensive end. We talked a lot about Justice Haynes and what, Michigan could do running offensively. And they like a lot of inside zone. From what I've seen and from what I've watched, they like a lot of inside zone running. And like you said, you have to be able to pull the tackles, make sure opening space for the linebackers. But Jakeem Stewart's another guy, with a team that has such a mobile quarterback, that read option is always in play. And honestly, setting the edge is vital in this game. So I agree with your picks. I think just the defensive line as a whole is going to have to play better if USC wants any chance to win this game. But now you've come to the moment you've been waiting for. Eric kind of propped it up a little earlier, so I know you're on your toes right now. Me and Eric both 4-1 on the year so far. It's still a pretty good record. What do we got? USC is favored by 2.5. The over/under is 56.5. We're not doing that. We're just talking about predictions. So what is your prediction for this game, Eric?
You know what? I think USC is going to cause maybe 1, maybe 2 fumbles.
Mm-hmm.
Despite all that, Lincoln Riley is going to manage to score prematurely and leave too much time on the clock. And the Wolverines are going to do just like Illinois. They're going to run all over USC. When it matters, the Trojans won't be able to stop them. Devin Tompkins, I don't necessarily see him stopping anybody. But even more than that, Desmond Stevens, I need to see something out of him, and I still don't think he's going to be able to do anything. So I do have the Michigan Wolverines pulling out a 34-30 victory at the Coliseum.
Well, we actually disagree for the first time. So I'm going to be in the stands for the first time as a fan in, maybe like 2 years at this point. But I'm very excited because I do think USC is going to pull it out. I think, first of all, Sharon Moore earlier this week was talking about, the Coliseum sold out because, Michigan fans are coming. And that might be true, but that seemed, it was a little egotistical from the Michigan head coach. So I'm hoping USC says, the Michigan fans might be right here, but we're going to send them home packing with an L. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think it's going to be 23-20 USC. Look, it does depend a lot on if USC can stop the run. But I do think this is a defense that could be susceptible at times. We saw what Oklahoma did at the beginning of the season versus Michigan. If Jaden Mava can get those big chunk plays, keep the offense moving, they're going to have to rely on the defense. But like I said, I think it's a low-scoring game. I think a game-winning field goal for USC. They win 23-20. But that has been here for the USC Pregame Show. Another week down. USC football, the college football playoffs are inching ever so closer. USC looking to book their ticket. It's going to be a big one. They're going to have to beat Michigan at home to hopefully continue that path to the CFB for the first time in Lincoln Riley's tenure. But other than that, he's been Elam. I've been Jude Okanius. And we'll see you on another edition next week, and we'll see which one of us is right. Till next time.